emotional support. And then we also have people that come in that need shelter. So people that are in domestic violence situations may need to get housing and shelter for their families. So that's something that we work with clients on as well. We do have a medical provider on staff for our children who may have been sexually abused or witnessed violence or have been physically abused. We have a doctor from Moses Cone who meets with all of our children who come through our Child Advocacy Center. And then other needs, sometimes people just come in to speak with an attorney, or they may come in to speak with their social worker, because we do have adult protective services and child protective services on site. Okay, so let's just talk briefly about domestic violence. Domestic violence is when someone is using their power to control another person. The dynamics of domestic violence are very complicated, and it's very serious as well. So before a situation can become violent, there's actually a lot of red flags. Usually it starts out as verbal or emotional abuse. So we know when we get into a relationship, if you're on your first date, it's very rare that it's going to turn violent, right? Because and usually what we do is, like with when we're talking about domestic violence, we usually make the victim a she and the perpetrator a he. That's not always true. Sometimes it can be the other way around, or sometimes there's also same-sex relationships. But in saying that, one of the things is verbal abuse. He may verbally abuse her. So that may look like name-calling, putting her down, telling her that she is not worth being here, telling her that no one likes her, telling her that she is ugly, and that no one else will want her. So making her feel belittling her. Other things that he may do is isolate her. So at first it may start out as, we should just stay in tonight. We should just stay in. We don't need to go out and see all these other people. I just want it to be one-on-one, you and me. And then as that happens, a lot of times friends start to leave the picture, and he isolates her. So by the time that she needs help, she doesn't have anyone to go to. They also minimize, deny, and blame. So anytime there's abuse, they may say, I didn't hit you that hard. How would he know that? He wasn't on the receiving end of that hit. Sometimes he may even say, I didn't do that. I didn't kick you, I didn't punch you. A lot of times our abusers are using children against their mother, so he's threatening to call Child Protective Services on her. A lot of abusers will use male privilege. I'm the king of the household. You'll hear things like that. And then using economic abuse. He may not allow her to go out and work, or if he does let her go out and work, he keeps her money. He takes her money. He's in charge of all the bank accounts, and he's looking at it. And I know sometimes this is hard to believe, but we hear it all the time. So before it can go into physical violence, it starts this way. There's red flags everywhere. And a lot of times when we're in relationships, we sometimes shy away from those red flags. Sometimes we're like, you know what, it wasn't that big of a deal. But then, hindsight, you look back and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I should have known then.
So what are the signs of someone's in an abusive relationship? First and foremost, is your friend frightened by their partner's anger? If you see someone cringe or someone flinch because someone gets angry, you know that's a good diagnosis of what they're seeing. Does a disagreement, just a disagreement cause fear? Are there apologies consistently? Does he constantly apologize for some physical action that he's done? What that does is just bring him back in. one of the first questions that you will hear advocates a lot of times, you will hear law enforcement say, is why don't they leave? How many people in here have been in a breakup before? How hard was that for you? Now imagine adding fear, violence, adding additional things that make that relationship so much worse. Do you think it's going to be easier to leave or harder? Much harder. So are the partner's behaviors blamed on someone else? But do they abuse alcohol or drugs and blame it on their partner? Because let's be honest, abusing alcohol and drugs is not a partner's problem, it's their problem, right? But they have to blame it someone, put blame on someone. Does the partner put the friend down constantly and tell them that they're wrong or anything along those? And the biggest thing is, are they constantly jealous? That's actually one of our red flag indicators for a lethality assessment. Are they constantly jealous? Do they isolate people from friends and family? Because that's your support structure, right? Your friends and your family are your support structure. If they eliminate that support structure, then you've got nowhere else to go. So what are the top 5 risk factors? These are questions that we ask all domestic violence victims because this determines what the lethality is. So as you can see here, any 3 of the yeses indicates a high possibility of a domestic violence homicide. So we take these questions very seriously. Has the abuser ever used or threatened to use any kind of weapon, whether it be a gun, a knife? Has the abuser threatened to kill or injure you? Has that abuser strangled or choked you? That's a big red flag for us. Okay, do me a favor. Everybody turn to their partner and shake hands. Seems kind of innocent, doesn't it? You have exerted enough pressure to strangle someone unconscious. That's how little it takes to render someone unconscious from strangulation. When someone is strangled, it literally takes less than a minute to kill you. So when someone puts their hands around your throat, that is a major warning sign that this is going to lead to death. And that's something you want to be aware of. We take that very seriously. Has the abuser been violent or consistently jealous? Has the abuser ever forced you to have sex? If we get 3 or more yeses, then we convene what we refer to as a high-risk team, because all of our partners get together and we work on the client's behalf to make sure that they do not become a homicide. And if it means getting them out of a relationship, if it means getting them to shelter, if it means getting a bus ticket and sending them to their family down in Alabama, we have done it. So these are the things that we look at when it comes to those kind of risks.
So a lot of times we're doing safety plans with clients. One of the things is everyone's safety plan looks different. So when we meet with clients, we assess their lethality, just as Sergeant Nick said. Things that we want people to do, and this is regardless if you report it or not. So if you're not ready to talk to the police, that's okay. But at least start collecting your documents. Make sure you photograph injuries. Make sure you write down what happened. A lot of times when we're in the crisis of our life, we want to forget it, and so you're going to do everything in your mind to try to forget it. So write it down and you can keep it or give it to somebody that you trust. One of the biggest things is always tell somebody, someone that you trust, someone that's not going to go and tell the whole world about it. So make sure you tell somebody so they know to kind of look out for you. We also want to make sure to save our text messages. We use that for evidence all the time. So emails, texts, phone calls, even if it's like 20 missed phone calls, that shows stalking behavior. So make sure to hold on to all of that. If you're in a relationship, you share a bank account, separate bank accounts, separate everything. I think one of the things, I used to do this all the time, like your bank card, I would give somebody my bank card and just say, all right, get me $20, here's my password, whatever, and I would just give those digits out. So keep that to yourself and not share that. We want to make sure to always keep extra keys around. So a lot of times when people are arguing, the first thing that he's going to go for is her keys and then her cell phone. So a lot of times people in domestic violence relationships will keep 2 cell phones. One is your working cell phone, and then the other cell phone doesn't need to have service to it. Just make sure it stays charged up, because if you need it, you can hide it, and you can always call 911 on a cell phone as long as it's charged up. So remember that. Always set extra keys out as well. Hide them in a place. One of the things we always say, when you park your car, back it into the parking space or the driveway. It's hard to reverse out when you're in a panic, so that way you can just hop in your car and get out of there. Again, tell a friend, have a code word. Have a code word with that friend. Because the last thing you want to do is call up your friend while he's sitting there and say, oh my gosh, John is doing X, Y, and Z to me, please come get me. Call the police. It may be that you just talk about, hey, do you want to meet tomorrow night for a movie? And that's the sign to your friend to call 911 right away. So one of the things I always say, always have, that person, your friend who you can tell anything to and who will keep it, but she'll come for you or he'll come for you if you need the help. And then always know your surroundings. One of the things, don't ever fight in the kitchen. We always tell people, do not fight in the kitchen. Why is that? Yep. Knives, pots. We see people that get hit with frying pans all the time. So don't fight in the kitchen. Know where your exits are. Just kind of come up with a plan as to how to get out. See?
Okay, big thing, report the abuse. It doesn't have to be to law enforcement. Okay, tell a friend, tell somebody about it so that they can get you out of the situation. Come down to the FJC. I'm a big proponent of that. Even if you don't want to talk to the police, if you want to talk to somebody, at least come talk to Sonia, come talk to our advocates so they can get you in a situation where you can get out of this. You want to get a protective order. We're going to discuss that pretty significantly because we want you to understand what the process is and how to go about it. Now, for the longest time, up until the Family Justice Center opened, it could take you almost a day. You get bounced around from different locations to different locations. You have to go to the courthouse. You have to go in front of the clerk of court and fill out all the paperwork. Then you have to go into the courthouse. And what do they do at the courthouse? They take your phone, right? Now, for someone who's a victim of domestic violence, do you think that phone, they want that phone out of their hand? No, that's their lifeline, right? And so they're having to go into the courtroom. They have to go in front of a judge and whoever else is sitting in the courtroom and put out all their personal business. So do you think that was effective? Do you think anybody was actually utilizing that as well as they wanted to? Not at all. So when the Family Justice Center opened, we now do 50 Bs on site. And guess what? It takes half the amount of time. You've got someone who is there and can walk you through the paperwork, and then you go into a room by yourself and you do Skype through the computer, and you talk to a judge face to face without having to leave the safety of the building. And so it's just you and the judge. Nobody knows about your personal business. Nobody knows about what's going on. You can be completely safe, and you can do a domestic violence protection order on site at the Family Justice Center. And that makes all the world of difference. And then what happens is once y'all have done the process and you've gone through that paperwork, we walk you around and we let you talk to a Guilford County deputy, and they're the ones that actually serve the protection order on the offender. And so you can sit down and you say, he lives here, he stays with his mama here, he works here, and then those deputies can go out and serve him with that order. So once the order is served, how do we do it? Well, for the longest time, one of the biggest things that was always said was, it's just a piece of paper, how's it going to protect me? Well, the things that we have started implementing at the Family Justice Center is designed to make sure that protection order has teeth. So that if once he has served the protection order, we take any weapons that he has. So if he's got any firearms, those get confiscated by those deputies. The second thing is you now have a point of contact at the Family Justice Center. So if he violates that protection order, if he calls you, if he texts you, if he texts your parents or your friends or anything like that, that's an indirect violation. You call us, we go across the street, and we take out a warrant for his arrest for violating that 50B. Then, Sonny and I go to court, and we go to court on your behalf, and we step in front of that judge and say, Your Honor, this offender did not listen to what you told him to do. You told him to stay away. You were the one that granted this protection order, and you said leave her alone, and he refused to do so. So you know what ends up happening there? That judge gets mad, because judges don't like it when you ignore them. And so what they do is they put a high bond on him. And so that defender starts to realize, okay, I got two choices here. I can either A, leave her alone, or B, stay in jail. Which do you think he's going to do? Exactly. So that's the way that we're able to give that protection order some teeth so that we can hold these guys responsible. You've got to be responsible for your actions. And so anybody that lays a hand on someone else, they're going to be held accountable. So what happens if we respond to a call of domestic violence? First and foremost, we're going to separate both parties. We're going to find out what's going on. Okay, second of all, you've got to understand that unless there is some kind of physical signs of violence, we can't arrest. We have to have evidence. Okay, we've got to have some kind of signs. Now, a lot of times it can be as minuscule as a scratch. It can be as minuscule as a bruise on the neck from where he may have grabbed you. It can be disheveled clothing, but we have to have some kind of evidence. If we do see signs of abuse, we are mandated by law, okay? And a lot of times what happens is people say, well, the police officer said he had to arrest me. We do. The state of North Carolina is a state that says if we see any kinds of signs of domestic violence, we are required by law to make an arrest, okay? So if we see something, we do have to arrest. Now keep in mind, if there's an assault both sides, both parties can go to jail. And it's not because we want to, it's because we are required to by law. So if there are no signs, what we will do is we will advise you on coming to the FJC. We'll also advise you on how you can go down and take out a warrant for yourself. And you can do that by state law. Anybody in here can go down to and talk in front of a magistrate and get a civil process or a criminal process against somebody. So that is open to everyone out here. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's what happens generally when we respond to a scene. Now, rolling into the sexual assault aspect, the reason that we want to talk about domestic violence and sexual assault together is because more often than not, you can see 77% of the cases is by someone that is known, all right? It's either a boyfriend or it's an acquaintance or it's someone that you've met through social media or you've met online. It is someone that you have some kind of connection to. So women between the ages of 16 and 23 are the ones that are most likely to be sexually assaulted. So I imagine that's most of the people in this room, isn't it? So you want to be mindful of this. Another thing is, rape is never your fault. A lot of times what happens is they feel guilty for getting into a situation, or they feel shame, or they feel, there are many emotions that are going into it, and so they feel like it was their fault. Rape is never your fault, or anybody's fault for that matter. It's the fault of the person that does it. And that's why we want to hold them responsible. Also, keep in mind, alcohol and drugs can limit your conscious thought, all right? It impedes your thought process, okay? What stone cold sober, what might make you think, oh, this is not a good idea, if you add alcohol or drugs into it, it may look like a better idea later. You want to be cognizant that can affect your awareness, it can affect your thought processes, it can affect your decision making. Social media is routinely used by sexual predators. Tinder, Plenty of Fish, Cut Through the Games, I think is one of them right there. A lot of times, these are where these predators wait, okay? You would be amazed at how many of the cases that come into me on sexual assault and rape cases were met through social media. So you want to be aware who you're talking to. A lot of times what we think is because we have conversations with these individuals online that we know them. We don't know them. You don't know them because what they're doing is they're telling you what you want to hear. And then they're going to try and get you away somewhere by yourself. So one of the things that we always recommend that when you do go out on a first date, go with friends, go on a double date, go with a group. Get to know this individual on a face-to-face level before you go anywhere by yourself with them.
So one thing I'm going to add to that, so when you're on those social media sites, I can almost guarantee you, if you think you're talking to an 18-year-old young man, 19-year-old young man, You're probably not. You're probably talking to some 50-year-old dude who can't get a date, okay? So I'm just going to keep it real. So be real careful about who you're talking to. How many times have we seen that? How many case reports have we seen that? So be really careful about that. One of the things, if you are sexually assaulted, and I pray that no one in this room, that does not happen to anyone in this room, but if it does, make sure not to eat, don't drink anything, don't take a shower, don't comb your hair, don't wash anything, just go to the hospital if able. Make sure you save the clothes that you were wearing, because sometimes evidence does get on the clothes. And talk with a SANE nurse. That's a sexual assault nurse examiner. We want you to call the police as soon as possible. If you are unable to do that or you don't want police involvement, that is okay. You can actually check into the hospital as Jane Doe. So the most important thing is that you are checked out and you are okay, all right? So, I mean, we, as law enforcement and Family Justice Center, we love to go out and get the bad guy. That's what we love to do. But we truly, truly want you to be okay. So you don't have to think about doing a case or anything like that. But one of the things, it's really hard to make decisions when you're in a crisis situation. So I always say, go ahead and have the Jane Doe rape kit done. That way, if you decide later to open up a case, they can do that. Now, that's not saying that we can prosecute it or anything like that, but that's saying at least we have the evidence, because a lot of times we can use that later if for some reason there is someone that has multiple victims. So at least we have that evidence. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you tell someone. So if you're on campus, tell an adult, someone that can guide you. Obviously you're going to tell your buddy, but tell an adult, somebody that can help you. There's also a crisis line that's available. It's anonymous. We're going to pass out some brochures here. And so you can always call a crisis line and you can remain anonymous. You don't have to give your name. So the main thing is just keep the information. That way you have it if you need it or if you need to give it to a friend. Oh, we want to do something really quick.
Yep.
All right, let's do this. You got.
Like I said, we have a lot of connections with the Bells. We want to get a selfie with y'all.
We all take a selfie with us?
Take a selfie with us?
Come on, y'all.
Come
You
on.
want to take a selfie? Look, see, no one ever likes us when we come, and now this is the only good part of the talk.
All right.
All right, smile over here. All right, let's do this side too.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. We got to get everybody.
Gotta get everybody.
All right.
We get real excited about that stuff. We don't get out much. They don't let us get out, so.
Right? Y'all don't even know us.
Y'all did a selfie with us.
How many times have we gone out to a party? Or how many times have we gone out to the step show? Or how many times have we gone out to the stadium to see the football game and we got in a selfie with a group of people we don't even know? Mm-hmm. How often do we do that?
Yep.
Keep in
It
mind,
happens.
the stuff that gets out there is forever. The stuff that is put online is forever. The stuff that goes out on social media is forever. So you've got to be real careful about what you put out there. 85% of the cases that we have revenge porn is coming out of a relationship. Because that guy has taught y'all into something. And he said, come on, baby, if you really love me, you'll do this for me. It's something that I can keep as a memory. Hey, I know, I'm a guy. I know, I'm a guy. The older we get, Chief, the more responsible we are. But, we were young men once before, but you've got to keep in mind that a lot of times what happens when that relationship ends. They get mad, they get angry, and they're going to get back. So what do? They put your stuff out online. So that's one of the things that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about 1 in 8 social media users have been victimized in revenge porn cases. Okay? Breakup is usually the contributing factor, and that's why when they get released. Also, you got to keep in mind that something if we can't tell who the person is, we can't prosecute. That's state law. So if we can't see someone's face, they're going to put out that that's you. But if we can't see your face in the video, we can't see your face in the image, which is protecting you, but we can't prosecute that.
And just another reminder, selfies are okay. We were just messing with you guys. But once it's out there, it is out there. So just be careful of that. One of the things that I always remind people, don't give anyone your password to Facebook or any of your social media accounts. Because one of the things that we're seeing is that people are really not breaking in, but they're using the other person's passcode and posting stuff from their account. So just be real careful about that. Keep that to yourself.
So like we said, never share intimate photos. You want to avoid taking any kind of explicit photos of yourself. You want to alter any photos to protect your identity. So if you're going to send something, now of course family and friends are different, right? Those are memories, that's stuff that you want to do. But you got to be careful, especially when it comes to a boyfriend-girlfriend kind of relationship. Unless you know, hey, this is the guy I'm going to marry, this is the guy I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, you got to be real careful about what you put out there. So alter that stuff. Alter it. We've got so many things on iPhones and the Samsungs and everything else that you can manipulate those photos and doctor them up and everything else. Shoot, my son brought me one where he looked like a puppy dog the other day. So you can tweak those pictures. Also, the big one that I always like to say, the grandmother rule. Anybody know what the grandmother rule is? Don't put something online that you wouldn't want your grandmother to see. All right? That's the big one. Because the internet is forever and it never forgets. So you think about this. You're about to graduate. You go out and you're trying to find a job. You know what most employers do? They look at your social media. They look to see what's been going on. That has become common practice nowadays, is to look through that kind of stuff and to see the kind of person they're going to employ. So if you want to protect yourself in your future, you've got to be mindful. The internet is forever, and prospective companies or businesses or future employers are going to look at that social media stuff. So if you are a victim, if you do have images that are out there, one of the things that you have to do is we can prosecute for it, but we can't take the stuff down, okay? Because you got to remember, Facebook's based out of California. I think Tinder's based out of somewhere in the Middle East. We've got several of the other social apps that are completely out of this country. So we cannot force them to take down imagery, but most of them have practices in place where you can contact them and say, hey, this is me, this is not authorized, and they will take it down. One of the ways to do that is the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, which has an online removal guide, so you can access that.
So, Sergeant, we have 3 minutes. So one of the things that we do want to talk to you about is, we talked about the Family Justice Center. You know where to get help, right? We're right across the street from the Guilford County Courthouse. All of our services are free, and I will tell you, we are not going to make you do anything. Just come and get the help. I know that Chief told us that, well, we know this is a really big weekend, and this is an awesome weekend for our community. We love homecoming. We love A&T homecoming. But one of the things that we want to remember, just a few tips that we want to put out there, and jump in, Sergeant. If you are out, well, first of all, how old are y'all? Everybody's 21. All right. Everybody in the room's 21. That's good to know. All right. So, in saying that, if you guys have a drink in your hand, okay, if you have a drink in your hand, do not set it down and leave it and come back to it. Once you set your drink down, regardless if it's got alcohol in it or not, if you set it down and walk away from it, just go ahead and be done with it. Because that's real easy for someone to slip something in that drink.
Also, remember, travel in packs, okay? Go with a group. Always leave with each other. Leave with the people that you came with, all right? Don't leave one. It's kind of like being out in the Serengeti. That cheetah or that tiger is going to cull one from the herd, and you want to make sure that you stay together. There is force in numbers, all right? There is protection in numbers. Okay, because at least one of y'all are going to be able to contact us, and then the police get there, and you got even more more forces, okay? So you want to stay together.
And let's just keep it real. We all have that one friend who gets a little tipsy and a little out of hand. All right, so let's just keep it real. We went to college, we know. And so we might have been those people too, probably. Yeah, okay. That person is going to be so combative. And they're going to be like, no, I just met Johnny over here, and oh, he's fine. We're in, biology class together and whatever. Do not leave your friend. Just sometimes you're going to have to be the mean friend and be like, get in the car now. And that's okay. That is okay to do. Be careful with Uber. Don't just take an Uber by yourself. There needs to be at least 2 or 3 of you in that Uber. And obviously there's ways that we can track Uber and all of that stuff, or Lyft, or whatever it is you're using. Obviously we don't want you to drink and drive. And so you may have your sober friend, have them take you around. And if you are gonna have a sober friend, make sure that they are your sober friend, okay? Because usually when you tag that sober partner, that's the person that always ends up getting drunk. So always have a second plan.
Okay, and lastly,
Because you're going to see a lot of cops out there this weekend. The whole department is activated. We get in the middle of it. We're out there. I'm telling you, I'm going to be over in Yanksteel and helping out to get the traffic out from the football game. So you probably see me. But keep in mind, if you do have interactions with law enforcement, if you keep it calm, we'll keep it calm. Okay? We don't want to ratchet any kind of feelings up on either side. All right, we all want to be safe. We all want to have fun. We want y'all to go out there and have a good time. But if you need us, that's where we're there too. You find any one of us, and they're going to help you. All right. So y'all have a great time this weekend. Be safe.
Thank y'all so much. And just remember this. One of my mentors told me this a long time ago, and it stands true. I am my sister's keeper. So watch out for your sister.
Okay, let's give a round of applause for our students today. Was this empowering for you? Okay, and we want to make sure that you go have fun, but we also want to make sure that you remain safe as well. And there are resources here. And is this something that you like to see forthcoming? Okay. We will work and keep this going. And one thing to add to this, in November, I'm going to hold a self-defense class, and I'll get all that information out too. I'm not going to teach you how to kill anybody, but I will teach you how to defend yourself. I am a multiple degree black belt in several disciplines of martial arts. I'm a United States Marine veteran. I've done some things that I am not proud of. However, for the sake of the country, I had to do it. But we want to make sure that you all have a wonderful and awesome week.
Have fun.
And even with those relationships, I'm celebrating my 27th anniversary today. Same woman. High school sweetheart.
Oh my.
Are there any questions?
That's too much.
Before we leave, are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Going once. Going twice. And again, my office is the little white building down the hill below Catchings. I have an open door policy anytime. Anytime if you want to come in and drink some coffee, like a coffee break, pour your cup of coffee, you can sit and chat. But your safety is our concern. And I know that most of you are away from your parents. And if you have a partner or a guy that, if your dad is not here, uncle's not here, I'll be your uncle. Bring him to me. Bring him to me. I'll scope him out, and I'm a good judge of character. I've been in the game a long time. I can spot him. I can smell him a mile away. All right? So if there's not anything else, thank you all. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.